Hi, welcome to episode number four. I can't speak. Number four of season three of my journey to try to become the strongest version of myself I can be by double bodyweight back squat. Last week was a bit of a frustrated week. Um, Inconsistent performances in the gym, not necessarily inconsistent training. Kind of a bit of a kind of retrospective reflection of kind of how I'm going about pursuing the goals, and whether some of the behaviours I had been engaged in were complementary, whether they were helping, whether they've been a bit of a hindrance. I suppose this week it's a bit more of the same, really. Less frustrated by it. It's not I'm frustrated by it, less of that. But a little bit more patient about what's coming. So this week, less kind of focused on trying to get as many calories burnt in a day, and trying to be as unfatigued as I can be. Fresh is something that I've long given up on, but as carry as little fatigue into training sessions as I can carry, and then kind of hopefully be in as better position to train as I possibly can. I have reinvigorated myself around intermittent fasting. I've tried it; it worked well, but it came at quite a heavy cost. It was quite mentally demanding for me to. I was hungry a lot of the time, and I think I was probably, when I did it, trying to maintain too much of a calorie deficit. And so for the period of time when I was doing intermittent fasting, it would work very well in terms of like a body mass, body composition point of view. But as soon as I would deviate from that, the backlash was so big that I would just fall back into some bad old habits. So I'm on back on it again now, but I'm consciously trying to have less of a calorie deficit than I was at the beginning. So this is not a weight loss strategy, more of a gut health calorie control strategy, but not a deficit. So trying to get, as best as you can, calorie neutral. So the hunger, the desire to eat is a little bit less, and hopefully that means I'm eating less shit calories and therefore generally being a bit healthy. So it's more of a health based approach than a targeted weight loss based approach, if that makes any sense to anybody. Kind of did in my own head when I thought about it, but as I say it out loud, I feel it's probably sounding like gibberish to most people. But that's kind of where I am. So I've kind of been a bit of a mindset kind of not shift, but just kind of nudge it a little bit back to where it needed to be over this last week. Training data wise, this is kind of where I have been since the start of this kind of year of training, since Easter really. And the only thing you can take from that is there's been no progress. It kind of like it's the most undulating kind of performance I've ever done. So the upper limit is 0.56 meters per second, the bottom limit is 0.48, and I literally bounce up and down off that. You can see there, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. There's no consistency, there's no development. And I haven't put my finger on that one. Now, a few people have kind of mentioned to me that there's a limit, there's an extraction point which you can't get past beyond using the 1x20 program, and the data might be suggesting that's where I'm at. But there's a mental part, there's a psychological piece of this, which is like I'm not going to give up on something. I'm not going to rationalise. I felt that last week when things were a time of difficulty, I would go back into my physiology and biomechanics toolbox and find ways to rationalise what's in front of me, rather than just keep, have a bit of mental toughness and resilience and just keep bashing through. And eventually that kind of does break you down, but not there yet. So the goal is to hit 0.6 meters per second as a set average for 20 reps, 100 kilos. Once I've done that, I will change. I'll go back into a different learning scheme. But as it stands now, this is something that I need to overcome. This is a mental battle now. It's like my brain versus my body kind of time. My body's going, you are not going to get better. This is a program that is not going to get you where you need to be. And I'm going, no, I am forcing myself to adapt to this. I might break myself in the process, but fuck it, I'm having a go. But I will get better at this. I will adapt. I will improve. And once I hit that goal, then I can change into a different loading scheme, and hopefully that will kickstart a more linear kind of progression. But at the moment, me versus 100 kilos is the battle I'm having. So I can squat it, I can do 20 reps of it, but I just get better, get worse, get better, get worse, get better, get worse, and I'm still not hitting that 0.6 meters per second. That means I've gotten consistently better. I've exceeded the point which I was at for 95 kilos, and I've not done that yet. I'm no better than I was when I was at 95 kilos in my mind, and that isn't how I approach this part of training. You have to have evidence that you've adapted before you can move on. So that's what I need. I need evidence that I've adapted before I can move on. Then I'll move on onwards and upwards. So that's where I'm at now. And I just keep plugging on, keeping on, and I'll get there. And then hopefully I can start smiling again when I do something a little bit different.